Good afternoon. Today we will look at the simple perfect and the progressive perfect. And we will be answering why your perfect tense sentence sounds awkward. Before we start, let's review the forms of both these tenses. The present perfect is used for actions that occurred sometime in the past. For example, they have eaten the pie. For the form, we use the auxiliary verb have, and we use the past participle for verbs. So eat, ate, eaten. The present perfect progressive is used for actions starting in the past and continuing until the present. For example, they have been eating the pie. The present perfect progressive uses the auxiliary verb have, so have has. It uses the past participle form of be, so been, and it uses the present participle for verbs, so eat, eating. Now let's look at verbs and their semantic aspects. There are 4 semantic aspects: durative, accomplished, punctual, and stative. Durative verbs express an ongoing action without a defined end time. For example, work. Accomplished verbs progress until accomplished. For example, learn something. Punctual verbs do not progress through time but are accomplished immediately. For example, jump. And stative verbs neither change nor progress through time and have no ending. For example, have something. Now let's look at durative verbs. As stated before, durative verbs express an ongoing action. These verbs do not have a defined end time. Examples of durative verbs are run, swim, wait, live, work, study, and walk. Because durative verbs do not have a defined ending, they can be used with the present perfect or present perfect progressive for actions starting in the past, such as 10 years ago, and continuing until the present. Let's look at an example with live in the present perfect. I have lived here for 10 years. With the present perfect progressive, I have been living here for 10 years. Both of these sentences mean the same thing. Since durative verbs have an undefined ending in the present perfect and without a past starting point, the action may or may not be already completed in the past. For example, live with the present perfect. I have lived here. This could be a past experience or an action continuing into the present. Because durative verbs do not have a defined ending, they can be used with the present perfect or present perfect progressive for actions starting in the past, such as in 2011, and continuing into the present. Let's look at an example with work. In the present perfect, he has worked here since 2011. With the present perfect progressive, he has been working here since 2011. Once again, since durative verbs have an undefined ending, in the present perfect and without a past starting point, the action may or may not be already completed in the past. For example, he has worked here could be a past experience or an action continuing in the present. Now let's look at accomplished verbs. Accomplished verbs are verbs that express an ongoing action but with a defined ending. That is, the action progresses until it is accomplished. Examples of accomplished verbs are paint a picture, make a thing, build a house, write a story, memorize, learn, eat. These verbs have a defined ending. Because accomplished verbs have a defined ending, it is preferable to use the present perfect progressive for actions starting in the past, such as 2 p.m., and continuing until the present. For example, memorize in the present perfect progressive. I have been memorizing this list since 2 p.m. However, since accomplished verbs have a defined ending, in the present perfect, the action has already been completed in the past. For example, memorize with the present perfect. I have memorized this list, and I'm done memorizing. However, in the present perfect, these verbs may sound awkward when used to express actions that start in the past and continue into the present, because as we know, it has a defined ending and the action has already been completed in the past. For example, memorize with the present perfect. I have memorized this list since 2 p.m. To express accomplished verbs with the present perfect for actions continuing until the present, we can add words that express repetition. For example, I have memorized many words since 2 p.m. Here, many words expresses a repetition. Let's look at another example with build. He has built many houses since 2005. Now let's look at punctual verbs. Punctual verbs have a defined end time but are not ongoing. That is, the action does not progress through time but is immediately accomplished. Example of punctual verbs are recognize, kiss, jump, kick, find, drop, and hit. Because punctual verbs do not progress through time, if they are used with the present perfect progressive, then the action is repeating. For example, jump with the present perfect progressive. He has been jumping since 11 a.m. Since punctual verbs are accomplished immediately, in the present perfect, the action is completed in the past. Furthermore, because the verb is punctual, if the verb is in the present perfect, then the action occurred once in the past. For example, jump with the present perfect. He has jumped. However, these verbs may sound awkward and forced when used with the present perfect for actions starting in the past and continuing into the present. For example, jump with the present perfect. He has jumped since 11 a.m. Again, the action does not progress through time, so it occurs only once. If we want to use a punctual verb with the present perfect for actions continuing until the present, we can add words that express repetition. For example, he has jumped many times since 11 a.m. Here the action is repeating. Another example with kick. He has kicked many balls since 11 a.m. Now let's look at stative verbs. Stative verbs are conditions or states. These verbs neither change nor progress through time. These verbs have no ending. Examples of stative verbs are have, contain, seem, want, like, know, and love. Because these verbs neither change through time nor have a defined ending, in the present perfect, the action starts in the past and continues into the present. For example, he has known about it. Furthermore, because these verbs neither change through time nor have a defined ending, they can also be used in the present perfect with past time references, such as yesterday, and with actions continuing into the present. For example, know with the present perfect. He has known about it since yesterday. However, because stative verbs don't change, don't progress through time, and don't have a defined ending, they may sound awkward and forced with the present perfect progressive for actions starting in the past, such as yesterday. For example, know with the present perfect progressive. He has been knowing about it since yesterday. Now let's do some 10-second practice exercises. Which word fits in the blank? He has been learning English for 2 weeks. The action is still progressing, and we use the present perfect progressive because learn is an accomplished verb with a defined ending. Next. He bought a race car years ago. He has had it for many years now. Have is a stative verb. The action is continuing, but since it's a stative verb, we use the present perfect. Next. He is getting on the army bus, and his mom has kissed him once on his cheek. Kiss is a punctual verb. The action is complete, and we use the present perfect because it occurs only once. Next. He has loved her for many years. The action is continuing, but since it's a stative verb, we can only use the present perfect. Next. We can use both. He has been waiting for 3 hours, and he has waited for 3 hours. We can use both because the action is progressing, and wait is a durative verb. It has no defined ending. Next. He has learned English, so he speaks well. The action is complete, and learn is an accomplished verb. We use learn because the action is complete and the action has already been accomplished. That's why he speaks perfectly. Next. They have been hitting the ball. They need to stop. Here, the action is progressing and the verb is punctual. So we use the present perfect progressive for a repeating action that continues into the present. Next. We can use both. She has been studying since 3 p.m. She has studied since 3 p.m. We can use both because study is a durative verb and the action is progressing into the present. Now let's summarize. We use durative verbs to express an ongoing action without a defined end time. In the present perfect progressive, the action may or may not continue into the present. For example, I have lived here. In the present perfect progressive, the action continues into the present. I have been living here. We can also use the present perfect for actions continuing into the present. For example, I have lived here for 10 years. Accomplished verbs progress until accomplished and have a defined end time. In the present perfect, the action is completed before the present. For example, I have memorized this list. With the present perfect progressive, the action is continuing into the present. For example, I have been memorizing this list. Punctual verbs do not progress through time but are accomplished immediately. In the present perfect, the action is accomplished once in the past. He has kicked the ball. In the present perfect progressive, the action is repeating into the present. He has been kicking the ball. Stated verbs neither change nor progress through time and have no ending. With the present perfect, the action continues into the present. He has known. We cannot use the present perfect progressive with stative verbs. Instead, use the present perfect for actions that began in the past and continue into the present. For example, he has known for 10 years. Examples of durative verbs are run, swim, wait, live, work, study, and walk. Examples of accomplished verbs are paint a picture, make a thing, build a house, write a story, grow up, learn, and eat. Examples of punctual verbs are recognize, kiss, jump, kick, find, drop, and hit. And examples of stative verbs are have, contain, seem, want, like, know, and love. Well, this concludes this presentation. If you have any thoughts, questions, or concerns, please email me, and I look forward to seeing you in class. Thank you so much for watching.